All right, let's compare the iPhone 16e with the older flagship iPhone 13. Let's start off with the price. $600 for the 16e. The iPhone 13, when it was launched, $800. Now that it's a few years old, you can only get it used or a third-party market. I've seen it for $300. And also the 16e, I've seen it on prepaid brand new already for $300. So pricing-wise, they're very comparable. They're both on the lower end. Both of these devices have the exact same dimensions. The iPhone 16e weighs a little bit less than the 13. They both have good build quality, glass front, glass back, aluminum frame, so they feel exactly the same. The 16e is eSIM only, just like the other iPhones, but the 13 has the nano SIM card slot and eSIM, so that is a positive. It's more flexible, it's better in that aspect than the 16e. Both have the same dust and water resistance, IP68, which gives you 6 meters of dust and water resistance. Now let's talk about the front and the display. Both of these look exactly the same on the front. It has the notch at the top. It's an older form factor. There's no dynamic island like the newer 15 Pro and the 16 series. But they both have a 60 hertz 6.1 inch display. It's slower than the ProMotion 120 hertz on the Pros. iPhone 60e comes with iOS 18 pre-installed. iPhone 13 was launched with iOS 15, currently has 18. But both of these devices for the foreseeable future will get plenty of updates, but the 16e is the one that will get more updates at the end. Now let's get into the guts of these devices, the performance, the raw power, and in this case, it's a big advantage on the 16e. It has 8 gigs of RAM versus the 4 on the iPhone 13. You have 128 gigs. That's the same on both of these devices. And you also have the A18 chip in the 16e versus the A15 on the iPhone 13. Basically, you got newer, faster, future-proof hardware on the inside of the iPhone 16e, which trounces the iPhone 13. It may not matter right now, they'll run pretty much neck and neck, but in the future, you will definitely notice the slowdowns on the iPhone 13 coming up. It's just a matter of physics. You got older, slower stuff on the inside of the iPhone 13. So that's a huge advantage of getting the iPhone 16e today. If you don't want a 16 or a 16 Pro for those prices, spend $600 or less and you can get the same raw power, very fast, very future-proof. Now, this is gonna matter a lot to a lot of people. You flip the device on the back, you got one camera on the 16e versus the 2 cameras on the 13, which include the ultra wide. Now that basically, it looks outdated having one camera on the back. So that's a huge advantage on the iPhone 13, and it has a capability of the ultra wide. So you have just a more modern, more capable camera system on the back of the iPhone 13. So right away, the thing that we notice is the iPhone 16e has a older look on the front and on the back. So advantage iPhone 13. But camera systems are gonna be good on both of these devices. 4K in the front, 4K in the back. Bluetooth 5.3 on the 16e, 5.0 on the 13. Now, when it comes to charging, very different situation. Advantage iPhone 16e because of the newer USB-C port versus Lightning on the iPhone 13. And going back to the display at the top, that's where you have Face ID for both of these devices. They work exactly the same. Both are reliable. You don't have dynamic island, like I said, from the newer model. So both of these look and work the same on the front. Next is battery life. Both have all-day battery life. You're not disappointed by either one, but the iPhone 16e is very impressive. Apple claims 26 hours of video playback, which is the most battery life of any iPhone at this 6.1 inch size. But the iPhone 13 is no slouch either. You'll get a lot of battery life out of that phone as well. And that's thanks in part to the C1 modem on the iPhone 16 getting those 26 hours of battery life. That is awesome. And a couple of little tidbits here that are missing on the iPhone 16e. Some people are missing MagSafe, and some people are missing that ultra wideband chip. To me, not a huge deal, but Apple had to cut corners somewhere. So if you were to use both of these devices today side by side, they work perfectly fine for everyday people.
You just got to consider the pricing on these devices. But when it comes to like that extra that Apple gives you, the iPhone 13 is a better feature-packed device, more modern in a sense. You have the 2 cameras on the back versus 1. You have MagSafe. You have just a cheaper phone, older phone, but it has like the newer, more modern design on the back, as opposed to the iPhone 16e, which is basically an iPhone 10R, and on the back with a single camera, and the notch at the top, which is like, an older phone as well. No dynamic island. The iPhone 16e trounces the iPhone 13 though in pure power and battery life. Okay, it's like it's like the 16e is the same processing power as iPhone 16 and the 16 Pro. So on pure power, the iPhone 16e is very impressive, and that's the device that you want to have if you want to keep it for a long time. The 13 is showing a little bit of its age with day-to-day tasks already, with 4 gigs of RAM and the older chipset. So to break it down even easier, the iPhone 16e lacks that extra ultra wide camera from the 13, and then at the bottom you have the USB-C port versus the Lightning port. Those are the only real crazy noticeable differences you find on these devices. Although both work perfectly fine today, but in a few years you will notice the slowdowns on the iPhone 13 for sure. So that's been my comparison of the 16e versus the 13.